You ever scroll through Twitter and see one of those really funny or relatable tweets? Now you see someone saying something like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this app is still free." Yeah, I got news for you, buddy. It's not exactly free. Yes, you downloaded the app for free and you signed up for free, but that's exactly where a purchase has been made. When you signed up, you ever notice that terms and condition thing you've got to acknowledge before you can proceed? Well, the devil's in the details, and that right there is truly an agreement. Not one that requires you to make any monetary upfront payments. Nah, not at all. They wouldn't dare ask you for your money upfront because, we're a free platform, powered to ensure your daily communication and social media scrolling is well intact. You see what I'm saying?
So you're probably wondering at this rate, what am I signing away since it's definitely not my cash? And they ensure that all users have encrypted data or encrypted privacy for safer use of their platforms, right? Well, yes and no, but spoiler alerts, you're not the customer, you're the product.
We see this phrase, terms and conditions, almost every day we spend online. For one reason or the other, and let's be honest, majority of us skip it and jump right back into whatever it is we're trying to do, right? And these platforms are very aware of that. And for the most part, they're banking on you to get it over with as quickly as possible. Because hidden in those long lines of legal mumbo jumbo are permissions that let them collect, store, and sell your data. Stuff like your location at all times, having access to all your contacts, as well as your camera and microphone, your browser search history, all that funny stuff you be looking up online. Yeah, they know what you're doing, bro. They know what you're doing. And even app behavior. And mind you, this is one of TikTok's fan favorites. Their algorithm is supercharged with a behavioral learning algorithm that picks up the microseconds when you scroll on a video, stop for a bit. These apps are collecting all of these micro movements to the minute detail and selling those details to advertisers, marketers, and data brokers. Now mind you, all these details about you are being legally handed over to them once you hit that agree button. Let's take Meta for example, or rather Facebook. Around 2018-19, Facebook had a vulnerability in the contact importer feature. It's a tool that makes it easy for users to upload their contacts and find their friends easily on Facebook, something a lot of us are very familiar with. And like I mentioned, a vulnerability was identified in this feature, and hackers took advantage of it using automated bots and scripts to essentially retrieve data from linked Facebook profiles, including details like their full names, their IDs, phone numbers, locations, date of birth, email addresses in some cases. To get a fuller scale of this whole debacle, more than 500 million user records were scraped and made vulnerable. This leak didn't only affect users in one region, but it actually affected users in over 105 countries. And mind you, over 32 million users from the US, 11 million from the UK, and 6 million from India were impacted directly by this incident. And turns out all this data was posted for free on a hacking forum in April 2021. And that's when all hell broke loose. One of the many reasons why this hack was so damaging is because while we know email leaks can be quite common across various platforms and creating a new email isn't so hard, the same can be said for numbers. They're oftentimes more closely attached to our legal identities, and this is where the real problem lies on the hack. Having such sensitive personal info that only yourself should have access to is now literally up for grabs in the black market. This kind of leak can make you vulnerable to like SIM swap attacks, phishing and scam messages, and even doxing or identity theft. And interestingly enough, Facebook responded to this by claiming the breach was not a hack, but more so a form of data scrapping, which actually is against their terms of service, essentially breaking the trust of their users and exposing them to life-altering risk without ever even letting them know at first. Facebook only ever addressed this once it was brought to the media's attention by other hackers in the space. They try to defend themselves with several not-so-viable claims, but this only goes to show how little our personal data and privacy is put into consideration when these platforms have shareholders to pay. There are a few facts we need to address and acknowledge in our current society. It's that if you're not paying with money, you're paying with data, your data. And in today's world, data is becoming increasingly more valuable than oil. And this is where we start to enter a sort of new wild, wild west. With the advent of the internet, social media, and all the convenience that comes with it, there's a price you're paying. And with each scroll, each like, each text message you send, unsend, and even stuff you almost clicked on, yeah, all that info is more often than not carefully being packaged and sent off to what we call data brokers. sometimes also called data vendors. They're essentially companies that collect, analyze, package, and sell personal data about individuals, oftentimes without you ever even knowing it or even knowing them. And one thing about these data brokers, they operate mostly in the shadows and backdoors of the internet we use every day. And something interesting to take note of is not just who or what they are, but how they get their hands on all your personal info. See, the thing now is that they don't usually collect data directly from you. It's an economy and there's a supply chain. They often buy your data from third-party sources like free apps, loyalty programs, social media platforms, and websites you visit and cookies you accept, or even public records. Truth be told, we constantly give out our information in varying ways almost every single day. And it's usually all of these factors coming together that makes your online experience sometimes just feel a little bit creepier by the day, where it feels like all your devices are almost always listening to you. And once you come online, all your favorite apps are trying to sell you something you actually like, something you probably even just spoke about. They know what kind of toothpaste you use, what time you go to bed, whether you've been Googling mechanics in your area or not. And funny enough, it's not just about you. Companies like Meta are known for creating what we call shadow profiles. These are profiles of often non-social media users, or people even without their consent. A company like Facebook can have a shadow profile of your mom built off of public information, contacts, and even third-party shared content. Don't forget, you're not the customer, you're the product. So there's something quite funny about these companies. They have interesting backdoor activities that often lead to breaches. Many of these free apps don't just collect your data, but they also often store it poorly. They tend to share it with little to no regards on who the buyer on the other end is, leaving a lot of our sensitive data vulnerable to hackers. And another thing that really needs to be mentioned is that sometimes these quote-unquote hacks aren't exactly hacks per se, but more so breaches built into the system. So let's get something clear. It's not always a break in the system, but a door that was simply opened, and in more ways than one, was meant to be opened against our wishes. Even though we've been promised that all backdoors will be permanently closed to ensure our privacy and to encrypt our data, but clearly, that's not always the case. The problem with this backdoor is not just that your personal info is being leaked, but it's what happens to it. This is one of the many ways your data and identity ends up on the black market. And depending on how unfortunate the case may be, you could find yourself in the middle of an identity theft case, where you're no longer able to access your accounts because, someone else that's impersonating you has access and blocks you out of your own account. Or other times where they use your personal info to trick your close friends and family into doing monetary favors for them. This is something I personally have seen happen to people around me. As humans, it's easy for us to be caught up in the comforts of convenience. Why bother reading page after page of complicated paragraphs when you can just click agree and start engaging with your favorite content creators online? The problem is, this is where they get you. It's up to you to realize that every like, follow, and comment you're making is being auctioned to hundreds of data brokers in the secret basements of the internet. And it's not just about the like and the comments, but where you're liking from, like even your address. It's up to you to realize that your continuous engagement with these apps and platforms means you're helping them find ways to market it more to people like you and even to you, to attract masses and get the information so that they can do whatever the heck they want to do with it. We're in a world where at this point, phones can legit be viewed as extended parts of ourselves. And that gives us access to any and everything we could ever think of knowing. You can get information about anyone at any time from anywhere. And as much as we've really explored the deep ends of how messy things get, we need to also understand that a lot of the power is still in our hands. We have the power to not only take control of our data, but to control the flow of where it goes and how it's being registered from you. For some reason, that makes me wonder, when it comes to privacy, what do we want control of, especially with our data? Is it that we don't want big companies and governments knowing what we do online? Or is it that we hate how well targeted ads are becoming? An interesting quote from Frances Haugen, a Facebook whistleblower, and it goes like this. When we live in an information environment that is full of angry, hateful, polarizing content, it erodes our civic trust. It erodes our faith in each other, and it erodes our ability to want to care for each other, end quote. Truth is, Privacy online isn't dead, but it's definitely on life support. Every day, we trade pieces of ourselves for convenience, a faster login, a more personalized feed, a free app. And maybe that's not entirely bad. Technology has connected us in incredible ways, but every click and every scroll we make, every accept all cookies button we press, it's a deal we're making. The real question we need to ask ourselves is if we're okay with it, if we're okay with all the terms and the conditions. Because as it's looking, the system is not changing anytime soon. I mean, at least not for us, but we can change the way we play it within the system. If you made it this far in the video, this is your sign to start reading the fine print and treat your personal data like the currency it is. The more we value our own data, the harder it becomes for anyone else to take advantage of it. Thank you for watching, and remember, on the internet, nothing is ever really free.